Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Holly Knight, and I'm the Director of Retirement Outcomes at Sapers & Wallach. My role on our retirement planning team is to oversee the financial education planning and implementation for our clients' employees. Now, although estate planning is very important, it can also be difficult and unpleasant, causing people to put it off. And while the topic of it is a difficult one, it's not as difficult as the situation your loved ones may be left in if you don't have an estate plan in place. At the end of the day, it's about peace of mind, not only for you, but more importantly, it's about protecting your loved ones who will have one less thing to worry about during a very difficult and emotional time. Now, recent 2020 survey results from Caring.com shows that the majority of people think that having a will is important, and yet only 3 in 10 people actually have a will. In fact, that number has gone down by 24% since 2017. When asked why they didn't have one of the biggest reasons stated was they didn't have the knowledge and the resources to get one. So I'm hoping to address that here. So let's get started by looking at the overall statistics.
52% of Americans who are 55 years old or older don't have a will. And according to this survey, this percentage has risen 12% just since 2019. 36% of Americans surveyed said they haven't gotten around to it, while 30% believe they just don't have enough assets to leave anyone. While 30% of Americans feel they should have a will by the age of 35, only 8% of the respondents between the ages of 18 to 34 actually do have a will. These statistics are worrisome, not only because the percentages are lower than they should be, but according to this survey, estate planning is on the decline. Now, let's take a look at what a will is. A will is a legal document. It's a set of directions to the probate court about how to distribute assets when you're gone. In other words, it's your written plan on what you want to happen to your estate. A very important reason to have a will, regardless of the size of your estate, is if you have children. A will can give direction on who you want to care for them if you're no longer here. And if you don't decide what to do with your assets or who will care for your children, you'll be at the mercy of the state you live in to make those important decisions for you. So why should you have a will? Well, for one, it allows you to decide how your estate will be distributed. It can minimize any family disagreements about your estate that may come up. It also determines the who, what, and when of your estate. Another reason is a will advises you to make informed decisions about who should take care of your children once you pass. Without a will, the court takes it upon itself to choose among family members or a state-appointed guardian. So having a will allows you to appoint the exact person or couple who you want to raise your children. And better yet, it makes sure the guardian is not someone you don't want to raise your children. The third reason to have a will is that it avoids a lengthy probate process. All estates must go through this, but having a will speeds up probate and informs the court exactly how you'd like your estate to be divided. Another reason to have a will is so that you can decide who's going to take care of your financial obligations once you've passed. Now, this is important because you're picking someone who's responsible for making sure that businesses are notified of what's going on, possibly canceling your credit cards, paying off bills or debt, and things like that. And the fifth reason to have a will is something that many individuals don't think about. While we typically think about who we want to distribute our assets to, a will makes sure that anyone you don't want to receive your estate is documented. The will makes sure the assets aren't distributed into the wrong hands. So now that we've gone over all the important reasons to have a will, there's still a couple of things we need to go over, because having a standalone will by itself can lead to some disadvantages. So let's talk about that for a couple of minutes. When looking at a standalone will versus a living trust, you will find a handful of disadvantages. A living trust will not have to go through probate, while to the contrary, we know a will does go through that process. A will can also be challenged, so you want to make sure that in the creation of your will, it's done correctly. Whenever you go through probate and you have assets to pass on in your will worth more than a certain amount, the procedure can get extremely long. It may take a lot of time and money for the estate to pass through the probate process. You also have to remember that a will is a public record. So once the will passes through probate, it's a public record that anyone can look up what the will states and what your intentions were for your assets. And the third disadvantage, which you may want to talk to your CPA or financial advisor about, is that a will may not fully address tax concerns when looking at your estate as a whole. So we've talked about the advantages and disadvantages of a will. I now want to give you an idea of some of the things you want to think about when you create your will or when you revisit the one that you already have. There's a lot on this slide, so don't get overwhelmed. It may be a good idea to pick up a pen and just jot some notes down. And you may not get every one of these, but at least get a handful of the ones that are most important to you. We think it's important to share some estate planning tips, and the first one is very simple, right? Make a will. We all know this. But secondly, consider a trust. And if you aren't clear on what a trust is, please contact us by clicking on the Talk to an Advisor button, and one of our financial advisors can walk you through what a trust is and whether or not it's the right thing for you. Choose a healthcare proxy. Now, a healthcare proxy allows you to appoint someone else to act as your agent for medical decisions. So it ensures that your medical treatment instructions are carried out, and it's especially important to have a healthcare proxy if you and your family may disagree about treatment. Appoint a financial power of attorney. So the POA is simply a way to allow someone else to manage your finances in the event you become incapacitated and are unable to make those decisions for yourself. More precisely, it grants someone legal authority to act on your behalf for financial issues. Consider life insurance. File beneficiary forms for accounts. In fact, don't just file beneficiary forms. You should revisit this on a yearly basis. It's a good idea to make sure you're up to date on who your beneficiaries are on each of your accounts. Cover funeral arrangements. When facing the loss of a loved one, the last thing that someone wants to think about is the planning and expense related to the funeral. And often the cost comes as quite a shock to the family. So planning for this in advance is something that can alleviate the stress to your loved ones. And finally, store your documents in a secure place. It's a good idea to have a list of accounts and passwords for everything you have out there, and then making sure that your POA or someone else that you appoint knows where to find the information if you pass.
Today we covered the basics of a will, the advantages and disadvantages of having one, and I shared some estate planning tips you may want to think about including in your will. Now I'm going to challenge you to do the following. Create a will. You can meet with an estate attorney if your situation is more complex, but if your situation doesn't warrant that level of expertise, you can go online and find websites to help you create your own. Appointing a team of people who will act on your behalf if you are incapacitated or have passed on will ensure that your wishes are carried out the way you want them to be. Make sure that you store your documents securely and also let a loved one or your POA or power of attorney know where to locate your will. And lastly, if you need a one-on-one consultation to ask questions or get more guidance, you can schedule time with an advisor at Sapers & Wallach by emailing us or calling us on the phone. We're here to help, so set an appointment and let us know what we can do for you. My contact information will be on the next slide. Thank you for spending time with me today and learning about wills. If you have any questions or need some guidance, you can email me directly at hknight@sapers-wallach.com, or you can email our team email address, which is solutions@sapers-wallach.com. If you'd rather talk on the phone, you can reach me by calling 617-715-0145. Thanks again for spending time with us, and I'll talk to you again soon.